Thank you everyone. Thank you all the previous two speakers too. A very interesting session. In fact, I was actually indulging myself listening to their presentation. I think I also learned quite a fair bit from them, understanding a little bit more for my SME customers. So once again, good morning. Thank you everyone for attending the session. First of all, I would like to really applaud what both Gary from Hexafood and Rachel from Alienware of the story about how actually digitalization is indeed help to transform the way that from backend to the front office, including the sales and marketing initiative. I think to cut it really, to summarize it, is actually there's no one size fits all approach, and actually depending on the corporation needs, right? And it's always inspiring and exciting to hear all the success stories like this, especially on how all the corporations, no matter how big you are, no matter how small you are, while they're embarking on this digitalization journey, right? So like what this title suggests today, it is indeed an essential digitalization journey for SME. And I hope that what I'm going to share in the next 20 to 25 minutes, what we have done for our SMEs, also continuously learning from our SME, will help to benefit you one way or another, right? But also I wanted to also give credit to actually what Gary has mentioned about the Kaizen, the continuous improvement part, and that's really very striking. And I also take note of actually how Alienware has actually grown 200% of GMV during the pandemic. And I think, well, there are some of the SMEs struggling, but there are a lot more SMEs out there that who actually jump onto the bandwagon of digitalization to actually make quite a substantial revenue gain out of it, right? So let's start. Right, I would like to start off by saying that digital adoption has actually indeed taken a quantum leap at both the organizations and in industry levels. So why I say so? So a new survey finds that responses to the COVID-19 has actually accelerated the adoption of digital technologies by several years. And that many of these changes could be here for a long haul, right? So if you notice in just a few months' time, COVID-19 has actually brought years of change in the way that companies in all sectors and regions has been doing the business, right? So if you actually notice on the exhibit one that I just showed, this is actually part of the survey done by McKinsey and Company Global Survey for the executive. Their companies have actually accelerated the digitalizations of the customers and supply chain interactions and of the internal operations by 3 to 4 years. Hang on, right? Let me put on my pointer. 3 to 4 years, right? In Asia Pacific alone, you see actually it's 4 years of acceleration. And number two, the exhibit number two, the share of digital or digitally enabled product, right? In the way have accelerated by a shocking 7 years. I'm talking about global perspective. But on Asia Pacific itself, it's actually gone for about 10 years of acceleration of adoption, right? So nearly all the respondents, they have been saying that the company has stood up at least temporary solutions to meet many of the new demand, and much more quickly than what they have actually thought possible before the crisis. And they also expect most of these changes to be long-lasting and already making the kind of investments that they hope will stick in the long run. So now, what's even more interesting is this, right? When these executives, according to the survey, when they're being asked about the impact of the crisis on a range of measures, and in fact, many of them says that funding for digital initiative had increased more than anything else. Let me repeat this. The funding for digital initiative has actually increased more than anything else, right? More than increase in cost, more than the increase in number of people in technology roles, and the number of customers. Why? So in many of us are aware by now, during the pandemic, exactly like what actually Rachel shared earlier, right? Customer has actually moved dramatically towards online channels. And a company has an industry that they have responded in turn. So if you look into the survey results again, it confirmed that a lot of this rapid shift towards interacting with customers through the online channels, through the digital channel, right? So they also shows that these rates of adoptions are years ahead when they were previously surveys conducted many years ago by McKinsey. So even more in developed Asia, if you notice, In here, this part, 4 years. In Asia Pacific alone, the acceleration adoption is actually 4 years. And perhaps even more surprising is actually the speed up in creating the digital or digitally enhanced offering. So across regions, you show on average, it's about 7 years, North America, 6 years. But in Asia, 10 years acceleration adoption. And this is actually really, really significant, right? And the respondents has also reported that a similar mix of type of digital products in the portfolio before and during the pandemic. So it's actually almost the same, right? It's just that during the crisis, the companies actually refocus their offerings rather than making a huge leap in terms of the product development in the span of a few months, right? So really, I think, well, the global change shift in terms of digitalization's trend is actually more significantly. But if you notice, we are in this part of the world in Asia Pacific have actually accelerated a lot more even as compared to the others, okay? Now, I wanted to share some of this digitalization journey that we in Digi business has taken with our SMEs, and not just the offering. Let me emphasize that this is very important, right? Because at the end of the day, even more importantly is actually we have the right offering, right solutions that produce that kind of high productivity and a reliable connectivity in transforming the SMEs business. So if you notice prior to 2019 or even way before that, right? Many corporations are already using our connectivity services, in which it has been one of our core business. Then in March 2020, as we all know, right, the COVID-19, the pandemic hit us hard. This is actually when we started to have this digitalization offering to cater for the SME business need, right? And at the same time, due to the increase of digitalizations, this e-crime, all these phishing activities, we realized that we need to further evolve to protect our SME customers too, right? So in the beginning of 2021, which is early of the year, our partnership initiative has started to really flourish, really, right? And we further enhance our offerings to all the SME customers. So by now, our corporations are a lot more familiar with digitalization. So to them, it's this is something very normal now, right? And that's why we improvise to provide more than basic digitalization services to value add when actually, especially business, when they realize that a lot more digitalization purpose, more than actually what they're currently having or many years before that, right? But then again, end of the day, for us, we won't stop here, right? Even as a service provider, we continue to do our best to really strive hard to offer what is really relevant to the SMEs out there, so that we can continue to help our SMEs to grow their businesses, right? And to us, change is really the only concern, right? This is also to actually take a point back, actually, what Gary had shared earlier, Kaizen, which is a continuous improvement, right? And this is the type of mindset that all the SMEs also must have in order for them to really transform the business. And of course, more importantly, it's also really about having the right talent, right people with the right thinking in the organizations. Otherwise, no matter how great, the type of product and services that you have, vendors, or even transformation initiative you intend to put in, that actually will put your transformations of digitalization into abrupt disruption. Okay? Now, more importantly, as actually we talk about what are the things that actually we have offered, also working together with our SMEs according to the needs. We are also in a way embarking on this journey, not just on our own alone. It's just not about all this internal offering, and just not about we ourselves. We talk about a lot of things short newly, and then at the end of the day, this is not what the SME needs, right? We don't do all this on our own, right? So we actually start and work together with all the different types of government agencies out there, right? Particularly, if you notice in the Penjana, the MDAC, and this is also where we offer this SME digitalization grant, right? So the SME, they will be able to take the first steps towards digitalization, right? You'll be very surprised that, so many SMEs out there, 97, 98% of business establishments out there, they don't really adopt on the digitalization journey in any way. It's just that, when it comes to this COVID-19, just like what the joke has been out there, it's about COVID-19 has become one of the most effective transformation agents, digitalization transformation agents, right? And at the same time, we also work with different technology providers. In fact, internally, we also have our own product offering. to help boost the productivity and kickstart the e-commerce operations. Well, at the same time, we also take the opportunity to optimize some of the operational matters, such as also customers services and also logistics. Right. So as SMEs or even the micro SMEs, right, they continue to actually move up the chain, right? From a micro SME to a small SME to a medium-sized SME and eventually become a large enterprises, right? So this is actually where they continue to progress and move up the chain. We also work with different service integrators out there and all the other technology service providers, depending on which the relevancy of the type of problem statements actually SMEs, large enterprises have with us to help the corporation realize cost savings in connectivity, which again, I'm also referring to a lot of all these challenges like the corporate voices, data, and different managed services, right? Many of these companies, as they move up the value chain, they wanted to really focus a lot more in the core businesses because technology, digitalization advancement has gone and accelerated so much, right? So they don't necessarily have the resources and the talent to really manage all this at the same time. So this is actually where we reach out to all these different SMEs to see how we can actually value add to these SMEs out there. Okay, now let's take a look in how a typical customer journey actually looks like. So you see on the left axis, you have this customer growth over the time, right? So number one, if you notice, what we actually doing here is our basic, which is again our core connectivity services. These are the core connectivity services, which is actually really a basic product proposition, right, to keep the business connected. So these are again the basic and different mix of basic and complementary product offering, catered for all based on connectivity needs out there: mobile, broadband, fiber, roaming, IDD, M2M, which I think to a lot of SMEs out there, this is something actually pretty familiar. Just to really continuously keeping the business connected to all the customers out there. Then, over the time, they realized that, well, the business starting to really grow, we starting to look into other kind of product ranging on the secure network. Just like what I mentioned a few slides earlier, right? As when now, digitalization becomes a lot more common, that everyone is actually coming online, going online. This is same goes to all the phishing and cyber attack activities and all this DDoS attack, right? So this is actually where we also looking into how we are able to do a lot of synergistic products and bundling offering, internet security, virtual PABX, to give a more unified experience. And at the same time, the type of mobile broadband services that we offer, we are also starting to also evolve into providing into dedicated internet access. So that, in a way, these are the least line services where you provide certain guaranteed uptime and bandwidth for critical tasks, especially where they need a lot of real-time access to all the cloud servers everywhere out there, or even to all the branches nationwide, worldwide, right? And over the time, as they move again, right? And this is actually where we talk about the next step of business growth and operational efficiency. So again, the key word here is actually really about what is the problem statement actually they have at that moment when they really move up the value chain, right? So the right solution, whether it's actually the in-house solutions that we have, or whether this is a solution provided where, as part of the partnership we do with the technology service providers out there to help to grow the business by understanding the problem statement and by resolving it, right? And most of the SMEs, probably at this stage, they really struggle to actually extend the reach to the uncharted market base out there. And perhaps also to a certain extent, those that who are already doing it, they struggle to actually think about how they can move beyond even the bigger, larger market audience, right? So now you have the connectivity in place. You have dedicated internet services, secure network in place. And you also, at the same time, you also think about some of the digital solutions that actually will help to grow your business, to move into the untapped market base or to move into larger base. So as you actually move up the chain again, then you realize that, hey, I've actually done all these basic steps in place now. So what exactly do I want to do next, right? Is now I wanted to spend a lot of my time to grow my core business, right? I don't want to spend too much of time to really talk about the non-core business activities, which might not necessarily have that kind of right expertise or talent in place, right? So this is actually where the peace of mind comes to the picture, where they continue to grow the business. And this is also where all these value-added offerings, right? Tailoring to all these specific needs, all this managing connectivity, communication services, cloud services, to a certain extent, ERP, right, come to the picture. So we are in a way not just about offering for the sake of offering to the SME customers out there, but more importantly, it's also really to tailor to the SME needs at that particular point of time, and see how best actually we can help them, right, so that they can have a peace of mind to really grow the core businesses. So this is actually how a typical customer lifecycle journey looks like, from micro SME to become a small SME, medium SME, and eventually, when they actually shift into even a much larger enterprises from that over the time. Okay. Now, I also, now just earlier I spoke about the customer lifecycle journey, right, for the SME. So as SME, they're starting to really progress up the value chain. Again, the business needs and the requirements, right, they continue to evolve based on our experience dealing with the SMEs. And then we realize that there are two major problem statements. So let's talk about the number one. So the one biggest, I think, problem statement which I encounter based on our conversations with all the SMEs, even large enterprise out there, is all this cost crunch to all the SMEs and also the medium enterprises to really start to reevaluate the entire cost base in detail. And corporate voice services is currently, again, very highly overpriced by incumbents. And again, this is actually very much right for modernization now, right? So what we do here is actually, in a way, we come up with this proposition where just again, when I actually, remap back again based on what the customer lifecycle journey actually we have shared early, which is also where all these mobile lines come to the picture. And then you have these corporate voices and the corporate data. Depending on the corporation needs, if you have a lot of basic needs, just purely to be in touch with the customers, there's some basic digital solution in place, then perhaps, you might just want to use a normal voice packages and mobile and corporate voice packages, right? But then if you actually have that need to enjoy all these dedicated internet services, you want to be sure that at the end of the day, these are all very well taken care of across all the branches nationwide. Retail outlets that you have nationwide, that's where you have this corporate data in place with all the DIA, the lease line services, and the fiber to office or fiber to home services. Now, the second major problem statement, actually, a lot of SMEs are experiencing, is really about the rapid change in technology requirements, right? What happened is, like what I mentioned earlier, instead of they, focusing a lot of time growing the core business, they also do not want to actually spend too much of time to really talk about all these operational matters, while at the same time moving up the technology chain, right, as far as digitalization journey is concerned. Hence, what we do here is actually we also look into how we can also help to elevate some of the concerns when we talk about all these managed services, right, as IoT, to a certain extent, even cloud services and all the customized solution. Right, and more importantly, what we are saying here is, again, it's really depending on the types of needs of the SMEs at that particular point of time as actually they move up the chain. That's where we will actually come in and work together with the SMEs to see how we can actually value add and really resolve their problem statement from that. Okay, and last but not least, again, what's next, right? So I've been hearing and talking about some of the trends that we have. We also talk about the opportunities and the challenges that actually all the SMEs are facing, the customer lifecycle journey. So now the notion of a tipping point for these technology adoptions of digital disruption, this is not something new, right? And this is actually, again, right, from a now normal, new normal become now normal, right? And this COVID-19, the crisis has actually become a tipping point of historic proportions. And that more changes will be required as the economic and the human situations evolve. Right? Even at this point of time, we don't even know, right, when this pandemic is going to end. There's so many mutated genes and DNAs out there now, right? So it's getting worse. And second part is actually, the results also show that some of the significant lessons can be drawn from these types of organizations have already taken, right? One is the importance of, again, learning, both tactically and in the process of making the specific changes to the business, which the technologies to execute and how, and at the same time, the organizationally and how to manage the change at a pace that far exceed prior to the experience that all of us actually gained before, right? So both of these types of learning will be very critical moving forward, as the pace of a change is not likely to slow down, right? So it's very important that we continue to have that kind of growth mindset in place. Again, I just really like to use the word shared by Gary earlier about Kaizen, the continuous improvement. And this is, I think, to me, is really, really precise to describe the types of mentality all of us should be in, whether SME, whether including us as a service provider. Okay, and then last but not least, it's very important that to all the SMEs, you understand exactly what is the biggest problem statement, your biggest elephant in the room you have, and look out for all the reliable and the trustworthy partners out there, right? To embark on your transformation journey, right? And really, and there's no better time to start looking out for one now. Just like what they say, it's better be late than never. Okay, so with this, I end my presentations. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, SK, you guys. Let's give it a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much. You know, the cool thing about your presentation is it's so easy to understand. It's so straightforward. The worst part is I don't have any questions for you because you literally covered everything.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I hope I am able to answer some of the queries by the SMEs too. And if any questions from the participants, I'm more than happy to answer. If there's anything I'm not able to give exact answer, no worry. You can always write to the, can always respond later once I got the precise exact answer.
That's good to know. So you guys, this is the time for you to send in your questions. You can take one or two. We have a couple of minutes. But yeah, for now, we can just chat while we wait. So SK, what have you been up to this week? How has your week been? Because it's Thursday, it's one more day till the weekend.
All of us still continue to really engage our SMEs, really have a lot of conversations. In fact, in Digi, we have taken a very safe approach to take care of employees' well-being, ensuring that we have the Team A, Team B approach. Only the critical resources are required to be returning to the office, number one, and also at the same time, the mental health well-being is also one of the key focus actually we have. That's exactly what Gary had shared earlier, right? I think this is also something that we are continuously putting a lot more emphasis on. Well, of course, at the day, just like any other business out there, we continue to grow. We continue to really reach out and hear out from our business partners, SMEs, potential customers to see how we can really continue to help value add to them. Yeah.
Correct, because like, you know, with this whole pandemic going on and the fact that it's not slowing down at all, there's only one way to go, and that's up from here. There's no way we can like go back to back then because it's no longer relevant already, you know? The new normal has made it so difficult already, and like we have to adapt. It's as simple as that. There's really nothing else we can do at this point, and nothing is ever going to be the same.
Yeah, it's no longer a new normal, right? I think it's a more like now normal. It's like, you know, for the next 1 year or so, I'm pretty sure stations, it might turn better, hopefully. But even if it's not, there's always opportunity in all this crisis. Just like, you know, how Ilianware has actually grown 300% of GMV. Right, I mean, that to me is pretty amazing. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other corporations, SMEs out there, have done remarkably well too during this crisis moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me personally, I find, and I feel almost guilty to say this because I know so many people. I have friends who have lost their jobs. I have friends who are going through a financial crisis right now. You know, the loans, car, house, and all that. And so I almost feel guilty to say that I feel like I have been thriving in this pandemic. You know, what about you personally?
Personally, to be fair, I think the team continuously growing. Just that at the same time, we are also having some difficulties in meeting up some of the customers. Like it or not, to be fair, virtual meeting is slightly lesser effective as compared to the face-to-face engagement interaction, right? Because, you know, over the air, sometimes, you know, due to the connectivity, due to any reasons, you know, you just cannot really gauge the real face-to-face interaction. So I wish that, you know, things will be returning to how it used to be then. So at least we can have a lot more conversations, real-time interactions, and face-to-face interaction with our customers. Yeah.
And it's also a little bit harder to put pressure on them, right? Through the screen,
Yeah, exactly.
you can't really convince them of certain things, or
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
said, gauging is hard lah. Like for me,
yeah,
I personally miss having offline events where I get to annoy people in person, because that's something that's really fun to do
yeah.
when I'm like stuck behind the screen. I think we don't have any questions. I mean, like I
Sure.
said, like I mentioned earlier, it's so clear cut. There's really nothing else to ask. But you guys, if you do think of questions to ask later, you can always, write in to the email that you see on your screen right now. So with that, I think we can wrap things up. A wonderful effort on your part, SK. I am so glad I got to meet you. And yeah, thanks for being a
Thank
part
you,
of this
Lauren.
event.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks a lot. See you.
Right.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.